Caution, the video podcast you're about to see is unedited and may contain opinions and language not suitable for all ages. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome back to Two Broke Airsofters. I'm Drew, aka Lil Reaper.
And I'm Tyler, a.k.a. Legion.
And we are, of course, the Two Broke Airsofters. Well, if you've been following us, which I know a lot of people have, I've heard some discussion throughout, and of course we've gotten some comments, and we're back. I mean, obviously we're doing something right. I don't know what the hell it is. But we do have a new topic. What's our topic, T?
Well, we're going to start the first in a three-part series where we're going to go over the different types of airsoft weapons that are out there and the systems that you can use. This week we're going to be talking about our electric guns, AEGs if you will, automatic electric gun. And then next week you'll hear us talk about the green gas and CO2 systems. And then our final parts of this series will be talking about the newest and greatest high pressure air HPA systems.
Well, thank you, Mr. Scientific, on those terms. Okay, so let's start at AEGs. Everybody and their brother either started with a Springer or an AEG. Most affordable to start with. And like you said, it's an automatic electric gun. I mean, you can't get any simpler than that. Stick a battery in it, put some BBs in it, pew, pew, pew. There you go. On that note, what did you start with AEG-wise?
I walked into a store. I'd never done airsoft before. I went entirely off of looks, but I went for the G3. I believe it was a Tokyo Marui, but I could, be wrong. But I entirely off of looks. I think it was a good choice for me. I ended up turning into a DMR, but I paid maybe $150. And I had everything I needed right there in the box to go out and play my first game in backyard game with friends. Well, and of course, AEGs, it goes back to what we talked about last time. You got your high cap, your mid cap, your beta mags, all that. AEG-wise, I'd have to say my first one was an Echo 1 Stag Arms Commando. It was the shorter, had the rail system on it. I had to be fancy. And probably within 5 minutes of receiving it, I think I tore it completely apart down. Even the gearbox was open down to the last bearing was pulled out. But along with that, I mean, what battery do you use in yours? Let's start with that. I mean, that's a hot topic right now. What batteries? So I think 95 to 100% of AGs that you pick up at Walmart or on the low end that aren't coming maybe from a more specialized shop are going to have your, I'm going to get it wrong, your 8.2s?
8.4s.
8.4s. I'm terrible at this game. So you're going to get your 8.4s. I prefer to use a 9.6. So you're one step up. You get a little more power into your gearbox. But you're not getting so much power that you're stripping that gearbox out.
A lot of kids.
You use.
What were you going to say?
Go ahead.
No,
I was going to say you use the more technical battery sizes. You get up, past 10. You put them into your big, thick, heavy sniper rifles, right?
Yeah, like my DMRs. I use the LiPo batteries. Now you got your 7.4 LiPo, you got your 11.6. The one thing about those, though, is a lot of what I see today is these kids want it because, oh, my God, it gives me the ROF, it gives me the trigger response and all that. And you can actually get that without that battery. With that battery, what you're doing is you're putting more power to your motor, which is, like you said, it's going to actually start to tear that gearbox up a little bit more unless you've made that gearbox what it needs to be. Now, some of the guns coming out now can actually handle some of those. I mean, you got your Crytek and some of your G&G, like the Predators and all, they can handle that 11.1. But do you want to put that much damage into your gun? Are you going to use that long? Because then you get into the mall. Do you use a 1200? Do you use a 1600? Do you use a 3200? Do you put one of the big, bulky brick batteries that look like a car battery on there? It's all.
Yeah, and my My first battery was a big, thick brick, and that G3 had the room for a 9.6 brick to go in there and get some distance. But the first thing that I found out within 3 months of running 1,000 BBs a game through that thing was that not all AEG guns, and pretty much none of them that just come right out the box, have all metal parts. A lot of them have plastic parts, strategically placed in areas that it's not as important, but they will strip out very quickly if you're throwing those, 11.6 lipos in there.
Okay, now for those of y'all at home watching this crap, he just gave away his age because, as you know, some of the newer gearboxes coming out, the version 2s and version 3s, they're all metal except for like your tappet plate, your air nozzle, and all that. Which is a great thing the companies have been doing because they want people to use these better batteries. They want them to get them deans and get the higher speed, the higher torques, make the DMRs out of them. But a basic gun, 9.6 nunchuck is going to run you all day long unless you hold that trigger down. I mean, it's a great little gun, great little battery. But AEG-wise...
I love it.
Oh, yeah, but AEG-wise, what are some of the cons to your AEGs?
The first big problem you're going to have is charging those batteries. It's a delicate process. You can't just throw them on the charger and leave them. You come back and you find that they've grown 10 times their original size, or sometimes they'll blow up. They've been known to catch fire. So you got to be careful. I think both you and I have been in games where the guy next to you, their gun has just started smoking and started having flames go through it because the opposite problem had happened where they discharged that battery too quickly.
Yeah. Things
along those lines really, really come up pretty quickly if you don't know how to handle those batteries properly.
Yeah.
The next thing I think that was a problem for me is, which isn't fair to say that it's an AEG problem in particular, but they can be kind of complicated on the internals, especially when you're trying to get your gears, aligned. If you're not the kind of person that's going to take the weapon apart, it's not that big a deal, but I find that it's a lot easier for me to work on an HPA gun or a green gas gun like we're going to talk about later, just because of the way the internals are built.
So basically what you're saying is unless you're a technical geek like me who likes to tear these things apart, rebuild them over and over again, it is kind of confusing. I mean, you get a lot of these kids, they look at YouTube and they go, oh, crap, well, I can do that because such and such just did it. And, oh, yeah, his gun's the same as mine. Well, as you've seen before, I've worked on a couple of your guns and showed you, AEGs, they may be the same brand, but they don't work the same. I mean, they're not exactly the same. You can't put 2,000th shims here or 200,000th shims here in both guns and make it work exactly the same. It's how you set it up, barrel hop-up gears, spacing, bucking, nub, everything on an AEG matters to get that thing working just like you want it.
Yeah, and obviously, I don't do any of that anymore, and you do all my work for me, as evidenced by the fact that I actually didn't know that we were coming out with mostly metal guns now. But a good story is the time that I had moved to Florida. And I took my weapon to somebody that I had been playing on the field with. I didn't know him very well. He said he could tech guns. So I took it to him. I don't think it had stopped working, and it never worked again after he touched it even. And by the time I brought it to you, you looked at it and you said the gears didn't match. I mean, nothing was right. I mean, a good analogy would be like if you were putting Toyota, Chevy, and Ford parts into a Tesla. It just didn't make any sense. It was bizarre. So
I can make a square peg fit in a round hole. I cannot make 3 gears that are improperly shim spin and move an air nozzle like it's supposed to. It just doesn't work. But again, on that side, you get a lot of these people now doing these tech works. How do you know who the tech is? I mean, it's not something you can learn in school. It's not something that, hey, I'm going to go get a degree in airsoftology, I mean, how do people learn? How do people become techs? How do people know what to do to tech?
Well, luckily, as a community, we're starting to see some of the companies have programs where you can go to their facilities and learn to tech their guns, which is pretty cool. So you end up with maybe a certificate. So you could go to a tech and they could say, look, here you can see my sheepskin on the wall that says, I've been to this company and they say that I've learned how to tech their guns. That's a good start.
I don't want to put it on the wall.
But I mean, that's a good start. The only other option you have right now in the world of airsoft, my personal opinion, but you really have to look at what they've done for other people and ask around about their reputation. There's no Yelp for airsoft. Maybe someday there will be when Airsoft C3 puts it together.
Airsoft C3's got it to where you can actually look up shops. That's what I was about to say, is shops are about the only way to go. Your local stores, your local fields, they usually have a tech on hand. But like you said, are they a 1-star tech? Are they a 3-star tech? Are they going to make my gun ramp up and go for 20 rounds, 100 rounds a second? 3 weeks later, I'm bringing the damn thing back and putting another $150 into it. Or, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but fuck yeah, I am. Toot, toot, toot. I take that time to build those guns. I built some for you. I built them for most of the Reapers, actually. And it's one of those things that you've got to stop and you've got to look at it and go, hey, this fucking thing cost me this much money. It needs to last me this damn long. I don't need to, destroy it in a day. But how many of those guys are out there? I see all the YouTube videos. I see all the videos from the, like Echo One and all them. They put out videos all the time. But these are guys who do this for a freaking living. We're going to know what we do. What do you do for a living? Well, besides say make videos right now. But, like you said, you're not going to take your groceries to a mechanic and ask him to fix them up. You're going to take them to a chef.
Right.
You need to find somebody who's got a little common sense.
Right. And a little bit like how some, tattoo artists kind of specialize in certain types of tattoos. I think you're going to see where techs are going to be specializing in certain types of airsoft's. So almost any tech is going to know AEGs. So that's kind of an upside to the AEG, is that across the board, it's been around the longest. Most people are going to know how to work on it. And it's hard to find an incompetent AEG tech. They're going to have to be like a jackass as a human being to be bad at it.
Now, see, I'll draw the line there, because are you talking about with just M4's version 2 gearbox, or are you talking the version 3 gearbox? You talking the MP7 gearbox? You talking the AEP pistols? You're getting into a little specialized there also. Are you talking about DSGs? Are you talking about, some of the specialty builds with MOSFETs and all?
You're totally right. Some people might not be able to work on AK-47s versus M4s because they have this slightly different gearbox. I would hope that most people that are trying to make a business out of it would at least understand or be able to teach themselves very quickly how to work on those things. But if I wanted to do some crazy custom job where I used a RC battery from an RC car to make some Super Mondo sniper rifle that shot 1,000 yards, I wouldn't just go and work with any tech. I would go to somebody that I know understood, electric voltage, joules, how much torque is going through the gearbox, and those types of concepts. And if you ask somebody that up front before you hand your gun to them, you're going to realize pretty quickly if they know the science behind teching, or if they're just somebody that said, oh, I like airsoft, I can take that apart.
Fine, I'll build the damn gun for you, but we've got to use an Optima yellow top if we're going to do it. But
hell yeah.
But you're right. You've got to trust the guy. And like I said, there's no schooling for it. Unless you go through a company or through a business, you're shooting in the dark unless you know the guy. But most of your local fields and all, they have that. But AEGs are prevalent everywhere. Everybody's buying them. They sell them a dime a dozen anymore. You can go on to most websites and pick them up. You can go to most fields, pick them up. You can go to eBay, pick them up. It's what everybody starts with, unless it's just one of those classic springers. Good gun.
So, coming 2020, Drew Tingle's Airsoft Certification Tech School?
Shit, if I'm around in 2020, maybe. It's going to cost you at least a 6-pack and maybe $10, but, I mean, I gave some tech classes this summer. I mean, it's something that you can pass along, but with the way everything's going now, with all the different manufacturers and all, everything's a little bit different on every manufacturer and every detail. So you kind of got to keep learning. Like we kept on saying the other day, it's a progressive sport. It's going to keep on going further down the road. It's just like car manufacturers. They're not going to put the same stupid seatbelt in this year that they put in last year. They're going to put something in that's a little better. And
so let's talk about those gearboxes specifically, because you have a couple different parts to the AEG that separate it from HPA and green gas, and the impeller system, which is basically the motor ramping against the gearbox, pulling the spring, yeah. Sorry, too much to drink. So that concept stays the same across AEGs, but I mean, tell me about the differences between the different gearboxes, outside of just the different shapes.
Well, we've been babbling for a bit, but to break it down simply, your standard or version 2, everybody knows. You got your 3 gears in there, your spring guide, your piston, your air nozzle, your tappet plate. It's in every standard M4 there is. I mean, I can't think of one besides the Amoeba, which is just a little bit different, but it has an electronic trigger in it. Every other M4 has the same damn gearbox. Your version 3, of course, is set up different, where the motor's attached to it, which is in like your AKs, your G36s, your MP5s. And then, of course, you got your specialty ones like your M14s and, of course, your MP7s, which are still electric if they even still make them. I used to have one, but they're all different, but they're all the same. It's the setup and the way it works. Does it have a double selector switch to it? Does it have, the long anti-reverse latch, so on and so forth? Small details, but in all out honesty, if you don't put them together right, it's not a small detail because you're going to go pew and it's not going to do anything. Wow. That just kind of went silent. Everything in here went really quiet. I don't know why. But,
it's just that moment.
Yeah. But then, we could talk for hours about AEGs because then you get into the different gears, gear ratios, springs, your piston heads, your double O-rings, air nozzles and everything. It's a lot to talk about, but in all out honesty, AEGs, I've used them for freaking going on 6 years now. I don't know how long you've been using them. They're good guns, and it is what you make of them.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. I would, that's why we started with AEGs first. I mean, they were the first thing that came out. The Japanese came up with them in, the 70s or 80s or whenever. The first guy had that thought. Yeah, that first thought came in that guy's head. That was what we did, was the AEG. So across the board, I think it's going to be the easiest to get into. It's going to be the simplest to get fixed, and it's going to be most cost effective.
Yeah, I mean, you can drop a lot into them, but it is what it is. I mean, this sport is what it is. You can drop money everywhere. For beginners, best thing you can do, buy an AEG. Don't start off with HPA or green gas. You're just going to eat yourself up and probably kick yourself in the butt in the morning once you see the bill, and then you start getting into it and seeing how much it can actually eat up your time and all. So, I mean, like I said, we could talk for hours, but unfortunately, I've come to the bottom of a bottle, so we might want to call it a night on this one and then pick up on which one next?
We'll be talking about green gas and CO2, so make sure you tune in next week. I am Legion, a.k.a. Tyler.
I am Drew, a.k.a. Lil Reaper. Gonna go eat some Mexican food so I can talk about gas next week. See you later.
Hoorah.